I have just had delivered via the usual Prime people a frame. I'll probably use a proper framing company to do this, but I wanted to test something as cheaply as possible to see if it worked as a design. So what you'll find is in the very next few minutes you'll see me do a transformation of this frame. Go. So good morning, it's the next day. I actually had an old friend and guy who did some of my websites come pop in, and then we got chatting, and then it was the end of the day. But I managed to get a couple more coats done before I went home, and I'm kind of keen, this is Saturday actually now, I'm keen to get in and get this tested, and my theory that because obviously I have a very monochrome looking design, I wondered if it would look good as with a fluorescent frame. So here we go. And then reveal it. I think I like it. Might need a bit more of a white border, just to leave a white strip around it. So I might reduce that slightly. But yeah, I like it. What do you think?
Look, sir, Troy. Stop that ship! Blast him!
Hello, and welcome to the 4th episode of the MrDogtooth. As you'll see, I've taken another position, and maybe you'll recognise it from last week's episode. This is actually the main studio, and this is my bench. I'm trying a 2-camera setup just because I like novelty, and I like to try and do interesting things as I move on. As a creative, you'll probably understand this process. The editing part of doing this job is actually less interesting, but there's a crucial element to editing that is still creative, so I'm still sort of enjoying that bit. But let's move on to this week's episode. So last week I set out a few things that I said that I would do, and these were things along the lines of the website. Now, I genuinely had that as a task to do this week. I've not managed it, but I have done some other interesting things, and as any person with a creative mind knows, these things are the things that keep us going. So first of all, I would like to show you some of the prints that I've got on my bench. So some of these are actually prints that I've done on my own machine, and then I actually commissioned or purchased some from my local print shop, and they've got a much finer printer than I have. Their printer produces a much finer dot, which therefore means that the details in the drawing are actually better. The issue I think that we have with that is the fact that to you on the screen you will never notice, but to the naked eye it is just slightly better. So I've ordered 3 of these, and they're on really nice paper, really sort of thick, really good detail paper, real nice matte finish, and I think these will be great. Almost, I think you could probably put them up as a poster, pin them up, or glue tack them to the wall. But for those of the people that get them, obviously they will also be getting the opportunity to put them in the frame themselves. Now what I'm going to do is I will be signing these, but then I'll also be taking them and putting them in a tube. So I've specifically made sure that they would go in the tubes. Now that fits perfectly in there. And then what you'll see I've done on here is I've just been playing with the idea of doing some stickers that could go onto the surface and just make it a bit more of an interesting tube. In the past, going back to one of the topics that I have a pet enthusiasm for, is getting people interested, as in last week's episode, it was like get your foot in the door. But another tactic that I use is to get on people's Instagram feed, is to present things in the best possible way. You could do that with millions of pounds, but sometimes you've got to actually do this within a budget as well. And so that's typically how I've always tried to think about packaging as an experience. So in the coming week, what I'll probably be doing is fine-tuning this. It will probably end up not being on white, but actually onto a clear, which will then wrap around each poster. When the receiver gets them, will have a little sort of something special that's unique to them on it, and then it will have some stickers in it as well. And that, I hope, will be everything that's needed. Now, I've actually also been playing with the idea of doing a set of postcards. And now you can maybe not see me in the shot here, but I've been playing with the idea of doing a set of postcards, which is just basically the large print that I've done, and just chopping it up, because as you can see, it becomes a bit of a puzzle. So I was thinking of doing something along those lines, and maybe you could buy it, frame it on the wall like that, or put it into a frame, or just use them as postcards. I was slightly worried about the size of the images when they were printed, but then the people who have printed this, which is the Frame Picture Company, and that is a little shout out to them, they actually did me these two mini ones so I could test which paper to go on. And actually the detail is really good, even at quite small. So these are A4 size roughly, and I actually think that these would be great products as well. On a wall, obviously you've got to get close to see all the details, but it's still quite interesting. So going back to my idea, another way of thinking about packaging your products as an artist is to think of it as an experience. So people have paid good money probably for your item, and it would be very easy for you just to ship the thing out in an envelope, just a regular flat standard envelope with their address on it, and they open it and they're happy because they've made a purchase, or in this case, you know, it's a tube. The print comes in a tube and they're happy because they've got the design. But how can we excel? With the stickers company, what we did was we thought about the experiences, like how can we create it? So when we created these boxes, they were standard boxes, they were white on the outside, and then we just created a little strap, which was a logo sticker, essentially, a little strap that held it together. We trialed loads of different boxes, some that were good, some that were bad, and eventually settled on this particular shape that had 2 tabs on it, so it was strength, and then we had our thing fold over the top of it, and that would hold it all together. But then when someone gets that, they just slip that, they open the box, and there in front of them is their logo, their thing that they wanted, which is usually their design or their logo. And that often makes them kind of excited to see that, you know, this digital thing has become a reality and it's there in front of them. And in my experience, everybody loves stickers. If I then take that experience, what we found was that everyone just took a photograph. So how could we take advantage of that experience? Well, one is to ask them to tag you in it, which we never really did. It was just a natural thing that people did for us. But you know, eventually we cottoned on that people were doing this, so then we would ask them to tag us in that. But then also in our packaging, when you open the lid, there was our logo and there was our URL. So every time someone took a photograph of their stickers with their logo, in the background was our logo and our URL. So there's just one way of utilizing that moment of joy that your client gets when they open the package. So to do that. Another way is to make the thing an experience in itself. So just another example. This was very custom. It was a client who was quite friendly with. and they lived a long way away, and this was a special gift that was created by someone, and they commissioned me to create it. So we created this skateboard, put all the graphics on it that we were going to do, which was essentially like a comic strip of this person in the space, and then they had created a lovely little note which then we affixed to the back of it. Then we wrapped it all up, got it ready to ship to Canada, but then I've just got this brown cardboard box, so I decided to, rather than just leave a brown cardboard box with a sticker on it that says their name, is I literally took my Sharpies out and I just wrote the person's name on it, really massive. And then I filled it all in, and I made there's an O in the name, and I made that into like a donut. And it was just this presentation of a cardboard box that comes through the post, but that became art in itself. Another time I've done this a couple of times with people. Well, you could say that I was maybe baiting for a bit of Instagram love, and I managed to get it. Someone asked us for some stickers, we created their stickers, and then we put them in, I think it was that they wanted a tube. So we just put their name all over it, filled it in, made it really an interesting experience to look at. And of course, when it arrives at their studio, they open the thing and they open this print, and it was actually the tube that got the limelight because of the fact that I put the effort in onto the tube. And again, we've done the same thing with a shipping box, a small shipping box for stickers. Is just put the person's name on it. So they're just some ways that you could personalise something that's really simple and actually disposable, throwaway, with the packaging. So that was just some thoughts for this week, and I was hoping that I would be able to just every week just put something else in. I'll tell you the part of my journey, some of the things that has happened this week, give you some insight into experiences or things that I'm going to utilise in my journey into being an artist from my experience as a business owner, and then I will set out what I'm going to do next week. So next week I'm going to do a few extra things to keep moving on this journey. But as you'll see over on the wall here, which it's been taped to the wall because I've been lacquering it, is actually some art that I finished for a road trip that I was on, and I posted it into the group, and quite a lot of people liked it. A few of them asked me to create a print of it, so I'm going to get that photographed, I'm hoping, at some point, and then I will get some prints made of that also, that again, that we can maybe use some of those experiences into how to ship for these people. This is an international group of people, so shipping things across the globe becomes trickier, and I know that from experience from shipping my helmets. In fact, both helmets that went out, there was issues with both of them. One of them actually ended up with cracks in the acrylic case, which I've hopefully sorted now. I've got another one made over in the other country and shipped to the client, and then also the other one, it's a small mark, and I will just replace that at some point, but there was no rush because the client hasn't actually got the space ready for that one at the moment, so that one will solve that in due course. But while I'm on the subject of helmets, you'll see, probably just in shot, is the current Porsche Stormtrooper. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, this is going to be boring because you will have already seen this week that I have talked about this, but I have had this on my shelf for some time, waiting to do it as a project. I've kind of been really keen to do it actually, but also quite scared because I want to make sure that all the cars look right. Anyway, all the pieces of yellow tape, as you'll see, I found a special technique that I think helps me. I took these photographs this one was given to me, and one of these are the ones for off the internet. So then I've traced them on my iPad, printed them out onto regular paper, and then put a piece of acetate over the top of it, and then put this masking tape on the top. And then I traced from the acetate to the masking tape the image. And then the technique that I found worked, and this is the version that I used to work it out, is if you peel back the tape a little bit to expose the glue side, and then you draw on the glue side, fold it back, you'll see it actually leaves a little mark, which I can just show you, or I can do an inset for that, in fact, which I will just show you now. So that is now in a position to make, really, for me to get cracking with this. I'll freehand all the Star Wars elements on it, as I've done before in the past. And while I'm on the subject of that, I'll also show you the golden one, as I call it. So the golden one is a regular Stormtrooper helmet that I used gold leaf on. So my experiment with gold leaf has basically been 2 skateboards and this helmet, and I literally just started doing it because I thought it was interesting, and kind of got really messy, but in the end I am particularly happy with this. I think it really is an interesting thing to look at. It has all the Star Wars elements in it. I'll do a close-up video of that in a second, but it is yeah, it's basically one of my current favourites that I've done. I think that when I put this one up for sale, I am probably going to regret it, because I actually really like it on my shelf at the moment. But I do need to get selling some of these and not hoarding them. I have a back catalogue of design ideas in my head, and so I just need to get on with someone. So obviously the Porsche one is key. I've got the Biker Scout helmet in my office, and I'm probably just going to do all scenes from Star Wars on that one. I might do a McLaren Stormtrooper rather than Biker Scout. And I've been Googling the RAL colour for the papaya orange, and I would like to do the whole thing in orange, maybe with like a couple of areas I'll spray. I'd like to probably leave some areas in white that would then give it like that kind of go faster racing helmet look, but then I would just put in lots of graphics all over it to do with Star Wars, and also McLaren. As a team, McLaren F1 are my favourite team, and they have been since. So that's this week's episode done. We covered the fluorescent frame, which I think is a goer. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that. We also covered the big prints that have come from the Frame Picture Company, which is a local company to me. Just check them out. And we also covered like packaging and how to basically game people to love your stuff. And then maybe a couple of potential products, which could be the postcards. Anyway, that's enough for this week. Goodbye. And goodbye.